Bullhorn Fight Fun. I'm Mike. That's Wes, wearing his terrible Detroit Lions hat, even though they're probably going to be good this year. And we were talking just before we came on. I do want to get this out of the way right away. UMD forward Will Francis announced that he has relapsed with his cancer. He's going to be going through treatment and hopes to rejoin the team in January. So our thoughts are with him. We seems to be an unfortunate theme with the Bulldogs that these kids get are ending up with cancer. But hopefully he can beat it again, rejoin the team, be back in school, and just have fun playing with his buddies as soon as the second half of the season starts.
Yeah, no, definitely unfortunate news. You know, luckily he does know the process. He's gone through it once before. Um, hopefully it's a quick thing, and he'll be back to join the team when he predicts that he will. Um, I'm pretty sure him and Stay Skull, that they probably talk about quite a bit and keep each other motivated and going and help each other along through the process. So he's definitely got a great support system, and all of the NCHC and probably college hockey in general is really pulling to make sure that he makes a full recovery and gets back out there.
Yeah, and I know they did talk about it last season with Zach, and Will was a huge support for Zach as he was going through everything, and now the feeling is reciprocated um, because I think it has been a few years since Will went through everything. So, um, wishing him the best. I mean, there's not much. I'm not a huge thoughts and prayers person as far as you can do more, but at this point, I don't know what we can do. So we're just pulling for him and hoping to see him back on the ice, just like any player within the conference.
Yeah, the conference is at its best when everybody's got their full team of players, and it won't really be the same NCHC without Will out there. So hopefully he'll get back and maybe help the Bulldogs make a push to the playoffs like they usually seem to do around that time of the year. So might be the perfect time to get him back. They're taking the Tampa Bay Lightning approach, keeping their guys on the IR until they absolutely need them in the playoffs.
It's just a ruse. It's just a ruse.
Yeah. Uh,
But speaking of the full strength of the conference, um, I don't know if we can call it a strength, but they are a part of the conference. And this week, going down the alphabet is Miami of Ohio.
hey, somebody's got to
And
finish last. Miami just chooses to do it more often than anybody else.
it seems like they choose to do it instead of um, not trying to. They just like, we're fine. Guys, you don't get a number one draft pick for finishing last. Let's pick it up here. But yeah, we're to the Red Hawks of Miami.
We were talking about this a little bit. I really don't expect much of a change from the Red Hawks here. This is Coach Bergeron's fifth year. They have finished seventh or eighth his previous 4 years. Um, not winning more than 8 games. Their his overall record in the last 4 years is 28, 90, and 13. So things have not been great for the Red Hawks. Really, since getting rid of Coach Rico Blasi, who's now with St. Thomas.
Yes.
So
I
they've got to figure something out. I mean, and not only on top of that, they had 8 people transfer out. They've got 5 incoming transfers, but they may have lost the most of any team, and not because guys were aging out or graduating. Like they lost some big name players in the transfer portal, 2 of which are staying in conference. Um, Red Savage, who had some difficulties last year due to injuries and playing with Team USA, was not necessarily in the lineup every day, but he transfers to Michigan State after just his sophomore season. He had 14 points, 7 goals, 7 assists. Uh, Maybe the biggest loss that they have is losing Ludwig Persson to North Dakota. He stays in the conference and is expected to be a pretty big boost to them. His record as a starter there is 19-53-8. He's got a 3.57 goals against average. The dude made 2,451 saves, I think, just last year, and had an 8.99 save percentage. Maybe that's combined years, but he put in the work, and maybe the results weren't necessarily there, but to have almost a 90% save percentage when you're potentially facing the most shots in the conference, if not all of college hockey, it's one of those things.
I think the biggest thing going into this season is they have to show progress. And they lost their two best players in Red Savage and Ludwig Persson.
And they also lose Joe Cassetti, who was a two-time transfer, transferring into Miami from Merrimack, but now transferring to Western Michigan as a grad student, who was tied for the team league with 10 goals. I mean, they're losing quite a bit.
There's a lot to be said for what happened in the transfer, what has happened for their record, what has happened in the transfer portal, and then what they have coming in for their roster. And that's kind of where I wanted to start, like we have before, is their roster. Because they don't have like anything coming in.
They have a very unique roster. Their roster is honestly, the only way to put it is interesting. They have 3 incoming freshmen, 11 sophomores, 2 juniors, 8 seniors, and 3 grad students. And I think I sent to you what their I can look at it right here. They have 5
I have
5 transfers coming in. One of 3 of which are sophomores, 1 junior, and a junior,
2 sophomores, 1 junior, 1 senior, and 1 grad student.
Yeah, it's kind of listed differently on the Rink Live because they went with, I think, last year's class. Yeah, when they transferred or like just finished.
Yeah.
So I mean, they have some experience, but it's not a lot. And how many of those 11 sophomores played last year? And how many are going to be able to carry the load? And even their senior class, I mean, that senior class has struggled. It's not a senior class that has built a winning tradition there by any means, but they know the system, they know the game, but can they, what are they really building there so far? It's not a lot.
And I mean, really, you look at their incoming transfers, the only person that really did anything was their grad transfer in Alban Nilsson, who's transferring in from Niagara. He had 24 points. But I mean, he had 10 goals last year at Niagara. And one of the guys that they lost was tied for the team lead in 10 goals. Like, if that's the bar that you're setting for offensive production as far as the team lead, you're not going to have success. You just aren't.
No, I mean, there's plenty of opportunities for guys to show up and show out here for sure. But again, like I really don't know that I've seen any real positives in the last few years. I mean, since Bergeron took over, I think we were kind of giving him a little bit of a pass the first couple of years. A lot of coaches struggle their first few years, especially coming into a program. It's not like what we saw with Western or Denver, where the next head coach was the assistant coach for a couple of years and really just stepped in and kept going with the success that they were already creating because they were a part of the culture that they're taking over for. This was, they wanted somebody different. Blassie had struggled a little bit in the NCHC. They thought they were going to bring in another alumni guy, and he was going to do what he did at Bowling Green, but we're seeing that that's a little bit more difficult in the NCHC. And if you struggle at all, that struggle seems to last a little bit. We're starting to see Colorado College like come out of that and build something and start making a climb, but that's that coach is what third. This will be his third season for
Yeah,
Mayotte.
this will be his third year.
So even and even North Dakota has struggled a little bit since switching from Hextall. It's not necessarily the they're on a downward trajectory. It appears, and we'll see what they do when we look at them a little bit later in the year. But I just don't have high hopes for Miami, and I want to. I want everyone in the conference to be dangerous and to potentially have 8 teams looking at spots in the tournament at the end of the year, and maybe we get that next year with Miami sitting on the sidelines again. Like maybe everyone from Arizona to Denver to Colorado College is looking at a shot at getting in the tournament, and Miami's just sitting there as the one that everybody beats up on. They're the run to the litter.
I think in every sport, as far as the college ranks go, you give the coach probably about like 5 years, 4 to 5 years, because by year 6, if you give them 5, they have all their players in, they have all their system established, because you can't just go out and pluck guys whenever you want and trade and do all that. You have to build the team. And that's where, comparing North Dakota and Miami, you have the Haxtell players that Coach Barry rode at North Dakota, and then you have this at Miami, where they're not getting any better. And then Colorado College, where their coach, going into his third season, he's kind of starting to bring his players in, and they're changing that culture, and they're changing that how they play to the way he wants to play. So they're kind of on the rise. So with Miami, if you were here and 5 years down the road, you're still here, if you don't move the needle at all this year, I think they go with a new coaching staff. And I feel bad for the kids, but at the same time, what do? You don't you don't want, because their other programs aren't going to bring them in any money either.
No.
Hockey probably is the best option. They have a nice facility down there, so
I mean, they're MAC football. They probably make their money on their football team. Their basketball teams are pretty competitive throughout the MAC. I mean, that's the benefit of being one of a slightly bigger school as far as other sports go. They don't rely 100% on their hockey program. Has the hockey program gotten them the farthest in recent memory? Yes, having uh, I think they had a Frozen Four appearance in the late aughts, early teens.
they did. They did.
But I mean, that's 10 years ago. You're looking at a decade of mediocrity to upper poorness.
I would just say poorness. I wouldn't even call it mediocrity.
Mediocrity at this point would be an
That would
improvement.
be a huge win. That'd be a huge win for them.
And again, I'm not trying to beat up on them because they're quote unquote Western's biggest rival, but what else can you say? They've struggled year in and year out. I think they've lost the last 6 or so straight to Western, if not more. Um,
And the
they
other thing with, I'm just looking at the roster, you lose your 2 biggest names, and you're only bringing in 3 freshmen, and you're kind of relying on the transfer portal. And the transfer portal isn't doing a whole lot for you either. that says something about what's going on there.
It's actually worse than I thought. They're on a 10-game losing streak to Western.
I mean,
And I mean, the closest game was
2.5 years.
was 4-5 last year that resulted in an OT win for Western. And a 3-3 tie that resulted in a shootout loss. And that was back in 2001. And I mean, it's been pretty decisive wins. 5-2, 4-2, 6-3, 5-3, 5-3, 3-0, 7-1, 5-2, 5-0, 5-4. I mean, like,
I think the proof is in the pudding with Red Savage leaving and Ludwig leaving as well. Red, he gave it 2 years. Ludwig gave it 3 years, and it's like, okay.
Red gave it like what, a year and a half maybe, because he had other obligations. Like I said, he played with Team USA. He got hurt. I think a large part of the reason why he chose to go to Miami was his older brother Ryan was there. Ryan graduated this year, so there's really not that tie there anymore. He is drafted by the Red Wings, so he's moving a little bit closer to the NHL team by transferring up to Michigan State. So there may have been other things other than just the lack of production. Because, I mean, we've seen guys stick on teams that you're kind of like, well, you could have gone somewhere else and potentially had it a little bit better. But,
I mean, I think there's part of that, but I think with Red, there's also, he's like, yeah, I'm the guy here. But it doesn't matter if you're the guy on a shit team. Like, if you're a competitive player, you want to win.
I mean, yes and no, but I don't see Connor McDavid really planning to leave the Oilers anytime soon.
He's also getting paid out the ass.
I mean, you may not be wrong.
But they become more competitive. But in college, for me as a college kid, yeah, I could be the guy, but if I can barely win a game within my conference, well, what good does that do me? Like, and yeah, some people might say, well, you should have scored more. He is one player that can only do so much. Hockey is a team game. You can't play all 60 minutes, and you can't
unless you're a goalie.
There were 2 players, unless you're a goalie. And I mean, person probably you could have counted his games as 120 minutes for how many shots he stopped.
Yeah.
So I think their roster is just
all right. Let's give them a little bit of a bright spot, okay? They got a couple things going for them, maybe. They do keep Matthew Barbolini. He's coming back for a senior season as forward. He was also the team leader in goals with 10. So they do not lose all of their offensive production.
they only lost half.
He led the team in assists with 15 and points with 25. So, a guy who does stand out on this roster. He's a name that you hear constantly called throughout the game. He does play the right way. He shows up every day. He's probably going to be that leader you look to get this team that is, I mean, they're pretty split evenly between upperclassmen and underclassmen as far as sophomores and freshmen go. That sophomore class is huge, but I think you lean on guys like Barbolini who've been there, who play the right way. Yes, they struggled, but he's going to be a guy that you hope can get the younger guys to buy into the system and to play hockey and play the best that they can. And however that shakes out, it shakes out. And they're not going to be completely inept in net. They do have Logan Neaton, who transferred in at some point. I don't know when, but he's a grad student goaltender who was Person's backup last year. He started 9 games, so he knows some of the teams in the NCHC. He's got some NCHC experience under him. I would assume that he's gonna be the leader for that starting goalie position. Who knows? They might have a freshman, or I don't remember what class their incoming goalie was, who plays spectacularly and steals the job. I don't know. Maybe they have the next Ludwig person coming in. Who knows?
Yeah, I think they're going to lean heavily on their upperclassmen, um, just trying to right the ship because they know what it takes to play in the NCHC. And you look at a guy like Derek Dashke last year for UMD. He transferred in from Omaha, who I mean, decent team but not great, and he ended up signing a pro contract after because he went. Yes, he did go to a different team, different system, but he shined and he shined throughout everything. So um, sophomores are going to need to step up, but I think they're going to have to lean heavily on their upperclassmen.
Yeah, they have. I think he transferred in last year as well, but he did not play in the 2022-2023 season. Carter McPhail from transferred him from Ferris State is going to be the senior goalie, competing with Neaton for that starting role. But I probably give Neaton the nudge.
Yeah, just because he played with the team last year, but McPhail will probably have a little bit of incentive at least for that first weekend to try and get in the net.
Yeah, and they have freshman goaltender Bruno Bruveris from Latvia. So who knows? Maybe he comes in, turns into the next, person, or who's the dude in Omaha, like Cozy.
Yeah, like Cozy.
Maybe they get that Eastern European phenomenon
I mean,
coming in and play goal. I do not expect it, but maybe.
This is just me being me, but if Bruno does get the job, I kind of want to go to the game and get a cutout of Bruno from the movie and just hold that behind him. I know I have issues.
Yeah, you do. Let's see. I think that about covers all the goodness and greatness, other than the first few some games that we can take a peek at.
Yeah, they're
Get it back over there. Hang on a minute.
their non-conference schedule. I think looking at it, especially from the historic aspect, it's good for them building some confidence because they're not playing a lot of the blue bloods and the best teams in the nation for the most part. And they are like Denver, where they are starting off the season with an actual series instead of starting off with an exhibition
game. Yeah, no, they play a familiar foe, Ferris State, NCHC, former NCHC opponent. I feel like these two teams. Yeah, that's what I meant. These two teams, I mean, they could be they could be future conference opponents if Miami goes back to the CCHA. Anywho's, Ferris played Western twice last year. Western had a big comeback win in the game that kind of really established Camero was going to be the starter for the rest of the season. Ferris State struggled against Western in the GLI, which I don't think anybody was touching Western that weekend. They put up 16 goals in the GLI tournament. Jason Poland had a hat trick in each game, so really wasn't much of a contest that year or last year for that trophy. But Ferris is a team that struggles a little bit. They've had some pretty up years. They've had some down years. I think this is a great way to start the season. They do have to travel a little bit. I mean, it's not a super long trip. It's probably 6 hours if a normal human being were to drive. They're playing in a pretty small arena there in Big Rapids. I might be going up there the week after that game to watch Western play. But it's a decent start, and then they get 4 straight home games. Canisius, I think, could be a pretty good opponent for them, too. They're going to be the third and final NCHC team to get a look at Arizona State before they join the conference next year. So Arizona State doing kind of almost a half NCHC schedule this year to prepare them for next season. And then they get into NCHC play with St. Cloud State, a team that I think they shocked last year, picking up a win late in the season, and then a series with Colorado College. So not a bad start to the year. I think there's definitely some room for them to steal a couple games. Unfortunately, I really don't see them doing too great. I have them at 3-7 through the first 10. I really think they're going to split with Ferris, get swept by Canisius, split with Arizona State, and split with Colorado College. But really, I don't really see them. I mean, there's the potential to get off to a strong start, but I just don't see it. Nothing screams, we're going to be good this year to me from Miami.
For them, I think I can see a split with Ferris. I think there's unless they were playing like Augustana or Long Island, who knows what Ferris is going to have. We don't look at them. We have no idea. But Ferris has kind of been down these last few years. Canisius is a little bit on the rise. I do think they'll get swept there. I don't see them splitting with Arizona State. In my opinion, Arizona State is the toughest of their non-conference teams. St. Cloud, wow, St. Cloud is going to be St. Cloud, and then Colorado College. That one's going to be interesting. I think that out of the first 10 games, that's going to be the one that's really, it's going to tell us the most. Well, not the most, but it's going to tell us a lot about Colorado College, but it's also going to tell us a lot about Miami. If Colorado College sweeps that, I think our assumptions are correct about both teams.
You know what? I think I'm going to give Colorado College a sweep there because I think I gave them the sweep in the Colorado College episode.
I just think Colorado College, yes, they did lose some, but I think they could sweep there. So I actually think.
So Miami would be 2-8.
Yeah, I'm.
I would very much like them to surprise me, but I don't think they will.
I have them at 1 or 2 wins, but I don't see anything. And the trouble is, we're not going to be able to see them until 13th and 14th. We're just going to be able to see the scores. But once they play Canisius, then we'll actually be able to watch the games and see how they look as a team.
Yeah.
You're like, they're good. Oh boy, no, they're not good. We can't formulate opinions if we can't see them.
Yeah, the first games will probably be on Flow Hockey. I think that's who CCHA is through.
Yes, yes.
Then it's pretty much 4 straight weeks, five five straight weeks on 6 straight weeks, 5.5 straight weeks on NCHC TV because they're playing a skip day home and home series over the Thanksgiving holiday with Mercyhurst. The day after Thanksgiving, they'll be at home in Ohio, and then they'll be on the road at Mercyhurst in Erie, PA. Then they've got they finished the first half of the year with Minnesota Duluth. They play a series with Niagara over the winter holiday. That's December 29th and 30th. They have both their series with Western in the second half of the year. Kicking off the second half of the NCHC schedule at home against the Broncos. And then they will wrap up the season here in Kalamazoo against those same Broncos. So it's kind of a tough ask to play Western 4 times in a little over 2 months.
Yeah, and I think you know getting back going again, playing Niagara. Niagara can be a sneaky team. I know they've played North Dakota the last 2 years, and I think have at least one win. But I know they've given them some close games. I think the one saving grace that Miami has is they only have to play Denver once.
Yeah, they might see him twice depending on how the playoff seeding shakes out. But
yeah, but as far as regular season, they only have one series out there, and they at least get a week off in between playing at home to St. Cloud State and then having to go to Denver so they can get out there a little earlier.
yeah. They only have one series with Omaha too. So I mean,
yeah, they do.
It'll be interesting to see. Miami, they're a question mark. I want to say nice things about them, but there's really nothing nice to say, unfortunately. And even this year, even harder because they pretty much lost everybody who was worth mentioning, aside from Matthew Barbolini.
And that's really the tough part is I think outside of your team being the best, at least for me, I want everything to come down to that final weekend and the seeding and have all these games be important. And so it really sucks when you're like, oh, they're terrible. But
I mean, if you got a shot at first place and you know that you're playing the last place team in the conference that last weekend, not necessarily a bad place to be.
Exactly. But I think one thing between you and I is regardless of which team, we're going to be fair on what we watch because last year I was super hard on UMD. Like we sucked. I was surprised we got the seed that we did because we were not good. My team's great. I'm going to say it. If my team's bad, I'm going to say it. If there is any team that's bad, I'm going to say it. So we're just going to be brutally honest in our opinions here. Uh, we're not here for feelings. If they want that, then they should just be better.
Michael Shosley's back in the comments, and he wants to know: will Miami win any conference games this year, and how many? They have a shot at winning. I mean, they knocked off St. Cloud last year when St. Cloud, I think, was like the number 3 team in the country and won like 5-0. Um, so to say like they can't win games, I don't think any team is going to go completely defeated, especially in hockey. It's too hard. But
I think
they will struggle for sure. I think they'll have minimal wins. Let me see what last
I
year's
think
schedule was.
they have a shot
I think they didn't they
at
did they beat you guys too, I think.
they beat us once
Yeah, they won 4-1 over.
because you laughed at me.
Yeah. For
Um,
I mean, they went to 2 shootouts with St. Cloud and I think beat them in one game. Yeah, they had a 5-0 win over St. Cloud and took them to 2 shootouts and lost both of those games. I mean, they're competitive with teams in the conference, but they're not consistent. And I mean, they lost 8-0 to North Dakota, who was not a great team last year.
I I'm just looking at their schedule. I think starting with St. Cloud, Colorado College, and North Dakota, they have a shot at least 2 wins with Colorado College and North Dakota, splitting those series. Um, Partly because I don't think North Dakota is going to know what they have still at that point. It's early enough in the season still. Colorado College, we don't know what they're going to have offensively. We know what they have in Umberto and goal, but we don't know what Miami's going to have bringing in. So that could be a split. North Dakota could be a split.
I think they get
Uh,
I think they get one out of the oh, here, let's do this. They have St. Cloud 4 times. I think they go 1-3 against St. Cloud. I think they split the season series with Colorado College.
that's that's
It's
fair. I
3
can see that one.
so that's 3 wins.
That's 3 wins.
They get 1 out of 4 with the Minnesota Duluth, so that's 4 wins.
Yeah, because we struggle against them, and honestly, if they split with us, that wouldn't surprise me.
Um, I think they season split with North Dakota, so that's 6 wins. I think they get swept by Denver. I think they get swept by Omaha. And I think they get full 4 games swept by Western Michigan. I have a lot of confidence in Western Michigan this year, seeing what I've seen as far as their roster makeup, what they've got coming back, what they've got coming in the transfer portal, what I've heard about these players, how the coaching staff has handled transitions like this in the past. So I mean, that's 6 conference wins, which
Yeah,
honestly,
6 or 7.
I don't think that's very far off what they did last year. And like I said, I really just don't know that I see any improvement.
I think they had 4 wins last year. They had three 1 year and 4 the other, and I just can't. I might be mixing up which year it was.
Yeah, that's true. So I mean, I think they're going to be right in that spot again. I think there's a potential for them to win 6. Uh, but they'll have to shock some teams like they did last year. And I mean, they can do it. Like I mean, like I said, we saw them do some pretty ridiculous things last year.
I think the biggest chance that they have to pick up some wins early in the conference is the North Dakota schedule, like that series. Um, just based off of what we know about North Dakota. Like, yes, they are facing their former goaltender, but it's a whole new defensive core for North Dakota.
That'll be interesting to see, honestly, if Miami knows Ludwig enough to capitalize. Yeah, they had 3 conference wins last year
Okay, it was 3 last year. It was 4 the year prior.
and 3 ties.
It's like, I mean, you do know the guys, and like Trevor has even told us. Uh,
But that goaltender knows every single one of them too.
well, exactly. There's that part. Because again, like Trevor told us, I can't remember who was coming down on him.
Wade Allison.
In a, it was Wade. He just stopped skating.
And just
Like,
shoots the puck in.
so,
High off the glass. What are you doing? He knows where I'm going.
so that part is interesting. I, like I said earlier, that one is, well, actually no, I didn't say that earlier. Colorado College is going to be interesting to me, but that North Dakota series is going to be really really interesting as well because there is that familiarity, but you have a team that's trying to build back up and a team that's also on the decline that doesn't really have an identity, and they're meeting 5 weeks into the season that they're still not going to have this identity necessarily. Uh, I think Miami probably ends up with more of one because you have a lot older of a roster and guys that have played together than North Dakota does. So that'll be one to watch. It might be boring, but just for
I mean,
storyline, that'd be one to watch.
it could either be boring or it could be a 13 goal shootout.
Well, yeah, you guys like to do that with North Dakota.
Yeah, we did that with North Dakota and Omaha. We just happened to win the North Dakota one and not the Omaha one. Western had some interesting games last year, but we'll talk about Western when we get there. All right, that's weeks away, my friend. That's like a month away.
Yeah, but the best part about this is as we move down the alphabet and move down the conference, that is 1 week closer to hockey season.
That it is. Uh, we still got a little bit of time. Let's do. Is Bergeron on the hot seat? Is this a make or break year for him, or if they continue to struggle, does it start to warm up? Does he get fired at the end of the season if they struggle the way they have? Does it just take a little bit of improvement? Like, I don't know, maybe winning 6 games in the conference is enough to give him another year with the fact that Arizona State comes into the conference next year. Maybe that's the push they need to say, hey, this hasn't worked out, or we're going to go a different direction. We want to be competitive in the 9-team conference.
I do think he's on the hot seat. Um, he's had ample opportunity to make improvements and actually regressed a little bit last year in the conference, going from 4 wins to 3 wins. Um, the players that he's bringing in just aren't doing it. I don't know if it's the system that he's running, if it's the players. There's something that's not quite working at Miami. Um, I think if they get to double digit wins, he might be safe, but they're going to have to show improvement. The only thing that I could think of that would save him is Arizona State coming in. Well, other than the double digit wins, with Arizona State coming in, the school saying we'll give you 2 more years to figure this out because we have one more team, or another year to figure it out because we have another team in the conference. And we don't want to start a full rebuild right now because we've been in last place for so long. Maybe we have a chance at not finishing last. I 100% think he's on the hot seat this year.
I don't know how he can't be. Honestly, here's his 4 years as the head coach. 2019, 2020, So that's the year the playoffs were cut off. They were 8-21-5. They finished 7th place in the NCHC. Okay, it's your first year. Maybe we give you a little bit of some leeway here.
Yeah, not your
2020,
players.
2021. This is the year that starts in the pod. 5-18-2. They finished tied for 7th with Colorado College. Somehow Western sneaks ahead of Colorado College and Miami with the god awful year that they had in the pod and the rest of that season. Okay, so maybe you go, all right, well, the first year wasn't necessarily your players, your guys. Year two, and no one knows what's going on. We're playing in a pod. We've never done this before. So now you got two pass years, okay? If you want to play that game. 2021, 2022, 7-27-2. So we've progressed a little bit. I mean, I don't even know that you could really say that's progression because they played significantly more games because we went back to non-conference schedules, and they might have finished with 2 wins and 9 extra losses in the year before had they played other teams. They finished 8th out in the first round of the playoffs, being swept by Denver. Nope. Yes. Last year, 8-24-4, finished last place, end the first round of the playoffs, swept by Denver. There really hasn't been any progression in a positive manner. 1 extra win, 2 extra ties. So, yeah, I guess you could say they were better last year than the year before, but by a margin of that much. What good does that really do?
And that's
Like I said to start the show, he's 28, 90, and 13 through 4 years. It's
you have guys that you brought in and
barely
they're
a.
leaving.
I mean, that's what a.
They're,
I don't know what that win percentage is, but it's not great.
it's not good. And it's obviously he's done something right to get to this position of being a Division One hockey coach.
I mean, he was good in Bowling Green. There were
And
positive. Everyone kind of thought last year was going to be the year because it took him a few years at Bowling Green to really establish himself and his team there. But
well, and you look at what Bob Motzko has done at University of Minnesota. Now, yes, I understand University of Minnesota versus Miami, um, different name recognition, but the Gophers were terrible. But Motzko came from St. Cloud, and he had built that program up, and now he's built the Gophers up to one of the top teams in the country.
I mean, look at Western.
There is something that, well, yeah, Western too. But there is something that is going on in his recruiting or his assistant coaches or his philosophy that just isn't working. And yeah, I get it. You're playing in the toughest conference in the nation, but you gotta change something after 4 years. And if it's the guys you're recruiting to come in, if it's the systems that you're playing, if it's
Man,
your assistant coaches, there's
yeah.
something that's gonna got to change. And unfortunately, I think after this year, I don't think he has a job at Miami. I really don't.
No, and he's really not doing anything to help the conversation of Miami wanting to get out of the NCHC and potentially go back to the CCHA either. I mean, that conversation could have happened no matter really where Miami was, but the fact that Miami is potentially at the bottom of the conference is only making that conversation louder, and that vocal minority more vocal about not wanting to be in the conference they're in. But if you look at where Western Michigan were and Miami were when the conference started, both had played pretty well the final few years of the old CCHA. They had each won a conference title. I think Miami may have won like 2 out of the last 3, honestly.
And Miami won the. Didn't they win the first NCHC?
No, they the second. I think they won the tournament the second year.
In the second year, something. Yeah.
but I mean, they were at a point where they were considered to be pretty good. They had the Final Four, the Frozen Four appearance. They were making the NCAA tournament. Um, and really, after that second year in the NCHC, they just kind of fell off into to nowheresville. They've been at the bottom. They haven't even really cleared like sixth place since that season. I don't think they get rid of Rico Blasi, who again had been a coach for quite a while. Bergeron really hasn't made any improvements to the team. They continue to struggle. They're they've lost 10 straight to their rival, which are kind of games that you want to at least hang your hat on and say, hey, at least we beat that team up north,
Mm-hmm.
once or twice. We split the season series with that team up north. They won at their barn, we won at ours. Like, they don't even have that to hang their hat on. They've lost every game to Western the last 5 years,
I mean,
or
that's what
2.5 years.
that's what Iowa was doing in football. They were the worst offense in college football or something like that last year, but they still beat us. You still want to be at least competitive, but you want to beat your rivals in a game or two. And I think that's the biggest difference with Miami and Colorado College. Colorado College was competitive about 10 years ago in the WCHA. Um, Going to games, they were fun when we played CC. You always knew they were going to be a competitive team. They dropped off the map some. Now with their new coach, and I can't remember his name,
Man,
in his third year, well, even year one to year two, you saw a little bit of improvement. I'm expecting to see more improvement from year two to three, even though they did lose some scoring and some talent and players. I'm still expecting to see that improvement because between year one and year two, there was a difference. Miami, there has been no difference. There has not been, basically, other than playing us. I don't feel like they're going to win a game going into any weekend. It, it's just kind of that feeling like if you're going to bet whoever's playing Miami because they're probably going to win. If you lose money, you lose money, but you're probably going to come out ahead.
here's the biggest difference that we have between Colorado College and Miami. The last 2 years going into the playoffs, we said Miami has a chance. We said Miami could shock somebody, and they went 2-1, 2-1 losses to North Dakota 2 years ago. Last year,
Mm-hmm.
they come in, they sweep Western Michigan, they shut out Denver, the two top teams in the conference, and they play in the NCHC finals.
Mm-hmm.
We always said that was a chance. Never once did we go, well, Miami's going to make it out of the first, has a chance to make it out of the first round. We went, well, looks like Denver's moving on. And we kind of threw our hands up and said, maybe next year, Miami. Like, there's hasn't been anything from Miami to push us over the edge to say, yep, that's the team that could break the top four. Or, like, I literally haven't moved them out of the eighth seed on my projected rankings. And I mean, mine are not changing from last week to this week. I haven't seen anything from Miami to make me think that they deserve to be any higher than eighth or that any team falls below them yet. So,
And you
I
know,
mean, you'll have to wait till November or October, what is it, 3rd, to get those rankings.
uh, you know, they
Yeah.
could, for whatever reason, come out and when we watch them on the 13th and 14th, be like, oh, well, this is a different team than we saw last year. But they just haven't done anything where
Well,
and the reason we keep throwing Colorado College is just because those have been the bottom two teams the last couple of years. But you look at Colorado College, what they were doing last year in the games they were playing, you're like, this team has a chance to win every game.
Yeah.
Miami, they did not.
No.
Like the only time they stood a chance was when person was standing on his head, and then
Maybe,
only then you were in the third period and you're going, ah, shit, we might lose this game.
yeah. I mean, even then,
He's
like
gonna
all
pitch
you
a
had to
shutout.
all you had to do, yeah. Pearson either had to pitch a shutout, or the other team just had to outlast him. And how many times did they outlast him? A lot more than he outlasted them, because he was
Mm-hmm.
eating pucks for 2 periods. You're like, how is Miami still in this game? Oh yeah, they have Ludwig Person in net. And then the third period is like, and he just gave up his fourth goal of the game, and now they're down 4-3. Like
Mm-hmm.
that seemed to be the most consistent story for Miami last year. But yeah, no, I agree. I think Bergeron's on the hot seat. I don't see this team really being all that competitive for the Penrose Cup. Maybe they shock the world like Colorado College did, and every team overlooks them and they make a run at the Frozen Faceoff. But as of right now, I do not have high hopes for them. Um, and I really don't see an end to this anytime soon. Um, maybe that big sophomore class will put some stuff together. Maybe enough guys will stick around so that they have a big senior class in 2 years, and they can rely on that experience and really build something. But man, this was a rough episode to get through just because there's really not a lot of positives to say. I think we found positives about Colorado College. We found positives about Denver, whether, no matter how much we dislike them, just for the fact that they keep winning shit. Uh, there just is not a lot of to find. No,
There's not, and I mean, you know, I guess hopefully there's enough kids that stay around in Miami. You know, if they do what we expect, hopefully enough kids stick around for the new coach, and then the new coach knows how to use them. Um, and it's not as long as we think, but yeah, I think this is going to be an episode that we're just going to have to dread for the next 4 or 5 years, because there's not going to be a whole lot to talk about, and they're just trying to find silver linings that really aren't there.
but I think that's gonna do it. Miami, if any of your fans happen to find this episode and you want to put some shit in the comments that proves us wrong or gives us something to consider, otherwise, like, I'm done dumpster diving looking for the gem in this one. It is a dumpster fire and needs to either burn out or be put out. But either way, the only thing it's doing is hurting the environment that is the NCHC. So on that note, because that's a great way to end it, we're gonna wrap this one up. Uh, Stuff's been going along at the bottom. You know where to find us. If not, just rewind to a spot where what you're looking for is at the bottom. The Twitter handle is at the bottom now, or the X handle, whatever you want to call it. The Gmail email account's going by now. Just starting to. That'll be on the screen fully in about 3 seconds. It felt like it was 3, and there it is. Takes up the whole screen. So screenshot that for you. You could do the Facebook things or the YouTube things. You can like, share, subscribe, whatever. Tell us we're idiots and we don't know what we're talking about, and Miami's going to win the national title next year. If you told me that and it happens, then you should put that bet in with Vegas now, because you should win money being that big of a loon. Um,
You will win a lot of money. Just send that our way, like some of it, but mostly Wes's way because he told you to do
uh, but yeah, no, I got nothing else. Just that dumpster's on fire and let it burn. Other than that, there's one thing left to say, because we say it every show. That's Pucks on Net. Good things happen, like goal horns and fight songs. Till the next episode, we're out of here.